Hey. Welcome to episode 258 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. This episode is called Misfortunes and Miracles. And one of the miracles that came into my life unexpectedly recently was meeting my next guest. He's kind. He's inspiring. He is thinking about how to make the world a better place, person by person who he interacts with. He's definitely already made my life better, and I have to say I'm nervous to be interviewing him because I want to do justice to his story and the brilliance he he brings to the world. So before I get any more nervous, let me bring him on. But before that, this.
Today's guest, Tony Russell.
Please help me welcome Tony Russell to Awkwardly Awesome Podcast.
Hey, Jason, how are you?
Hey, I'm wonderful, Tony. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
I'm I'm fascinated by your story, and I'm not the only one. You said that several people have told you, Tony, you should write a book. What's that like to hear that people want you to write a book?
It's intimidating. I know that you have wrote a book, and uh, for me, it's just a huge mountain that's off in the distance that I look at and say, well, maybe someday I'll conquer that. But right now, I'm content working on some of the day-to-day projects and trying to inspire individuals as I cross paths with them and try to make their lives better. But we'll see. Maybe one day we'll get to the book.
Yeah, I'm so excited. You for your book. You do have a spectacular story, and right away when we began talking about your story during the pre-interview, you said, my story begins before I was born. How so?
It does. My story, like a lot of others that are out there, sometimes relationships aren't always what we anticipate or aren't always as they seem. And for me, my my mother got pregnant, and when she approached her significant other at the time and told him that she was pregnant, he dropped the bomb that he was married and had a family and wasn't looking for another family to raise, and tried to convince her to get an abortion. Um, and for me, I am just one one decision away from not being here, but it is a miracle that I made it this far. I was born extremely premature. I was exactly 4 pounds when I was born. So through the trials, through the challenges, uh, I wanted to be here and wanted to be in this world and see what kind of goodness it had for me.
So your mom made a decision, which is why you're sitting here talking to me right now.
Yes, yeah, she made probably the hardest decision of her life. And what I didn't know and found out recently is that she had a lot of medical complications and a lot of medical challenges. And so she probably made a very risky decision on her part. And she had me and tried to raise me as a single mother. However, unfortunately, um, she did pass away, and when I was 4 years old, and so I didn't get to spend a whole lot of time with her. But I was extremely, and still am extremely grateful for the decision she made and the impact she had on my life.
How does a 4-year-old even begin to comprehend losing a mom?
I don't think you do. At that point, I didn't understand. I remember going to my grandfather's house and expecting to go back home, and I would ask, where's my mom? When can I see her? I don't know that you fully understand how to deal with that grief at such a young age, but you understand that that loved one is no longer there. And there was something inside me that said, you just need to keep pushing forward. You need to keep pushing on, even though that loss is there. Um, there's something bigger out there for you, and you need to keep pushing forward.
Can you say any more about the voice that came to you at such a young age that said you just need to keep pushing on? There's more out there for you.
Yeah, I don't know that it was never a audible voice that I heard by any means, unless it was maybe sometimes through family members who would kind of look at me and um, they would feel pity. They would feel pity for a little child who was essentially, by no fault of her own, abandoned by their parents, and who no longer had those role models in their life. But it was an inner voice, and for me, I believe it was a voice of maybe a higher power, where God was saying to me, I have something for your life,
Hmm.
and you just need to keep pressing forward. Don't give up.
Hmm.
And it could have been easy to give up at a young age. I didn't have friends, I didn't have family at that point. I just was very alone
Hmm.
in a big world.
Hmm.
And I knew that my biological aunt and uncle were raising me, but they had two children of their own, and they couldn't always focus on an extra child, and finances are hard and all of those things. And so I relied on that voice to keep me going and just say keep moving forward, even though things are hard right now.
Then Then at a certain point, soon hereafter, your preschool teacher enters your life in a very significant. I mean, teaching preschool and have is significant, but she enters your life in a more significant way. In an
Yes,
even more significant way. What is that story?
yeah, huge shout out to all of those caregivers who are doing preschool and teaching our kids that the impact that you have on them is something that you may never know, but the impact is big. For me, my preschool teacher just really seemed to gravitate towards me, whether it was at playtimes or just kind of taking a little bit of extra care in me. Maybe it's because she knew my background a little bit. I don't know the true reason, but we formed a bond. And when she found out that my family was going to be placing me up for adoption, I'm told that she went home to her husband, who was a uh, officer in the military, had had a command, had folks that were under his direction and authority, and she went home and she looked at him and she said, "We're adopting a son." And without hesitation, without question, he just looked at her and said, "Yes, ma'am."
Hmm.
And that that changed the whole entire trajectory of my life.
Hmm.
I now got a family. I now had a support system that I could build off of and launch from, was something that was so incredible, and I will never ever be able to thank her enough and thank my family enough for what they did for me.
What are the names?
My mother has my mom has passed. I call 'em mom and dad, but Marge was her name, and Tony. Just by coincidence, Tony Senior and I share the same name. I already was named prior to being adopted. There was no kind of foreshadowing or anything there. It was just a coincidence, but pretty neat coincidence that we ended up with the same name.
Hold out of like how many possible men's names are there? Wow, that's amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a large number. I don't know, but I'll have to look it up after this. But it absolutely is incredible, and that's why I say, for me, I feel like there is a bigger hand at play throughout my life, in this.
What are Tony? What are some of your favorite early memories of living with Marge and Tony Senior and being their son?
Uh, some of my favorite memories really revolve around the holidays. Uh, Marge's dad, uh, Mickey or Michael, was just this bigger than life person who could whistle a Christmas carol every morning as he shaved in the bathroom. And these are the days before internet and Alexas and all the other things that we have today. And as a little kid, you could run up to him and ask him, "Hey, Grandpa, how many days till Christmas?" And it didn't matter what time of year it was, he knew exactly how many days until Christmas. Um,
Wow.
yes, yeah, and so those memories of celebrating, just making Christmas cookies together and doing things as a family are the memories that impact me the most.
Wow. Wow. Um, so did you grow up in Rapid City?
No, I grew up in Western New York, um, about an hour outside of Buffalo. So I'm used to some of the snow and cold, but um, not quite the South Dakota winters. But I loved I loved the East Coast. I love the fall foliage, the all the colors and things that come out at that time of year, pumpkins and fall, and I miss some
Hmm.
of that.
So if I had known you when you were 7 or 8, and asked you what you wanted to do when you grew up, what would you have talked about?
Well, it goes back to that preschool or nursery school time in my life. Honestly, Jason, before I even knew that I was getting adopted by Marge and Tony, uh, Marge had her husband come in and talk to a bunch of preschoolers about the military. So he comes in his full flight suit. He brings his flight helmet and he's in this uniform, and I just remember the boots being shiny and seeing how good he looked in the uniform. Man, that's something that I want to do with my life. And as I grew up, you know, 8, 9, 10, it became very apparent to me that I wanted to find a way to honor my family. And one of the ways I felt that I could best do that was to join the military. Because not only do you have the name of the branch that you served in on your chest, on the other side, it has your last name.
Hmm.
And for me, being adopted at 5,
Hmm.
uh, it was important to be able to wear and show off that last name, Russell, that meant so much to me, that gave that family that gave so much to me. I wanted to honor that and wear that um, and hopefully honor the name and the family as I did service for our country.
What what was it like the first time you put on a uniform and the wrestle name was on the uniform?
um, so everyone who joins the military goes through basic training, and part of basic military training is essentially earning your uniform. You get pieces of it at certain times, but it wasn't until I believe it was week 4 there was no names, there was nothing on our uniforms, no names, no ranks. But in week 4, we finally got to put our names on our chest. And that was kind of emotional for me. I didn't think it would be, especially when you're in this big barracks, this big room with 62 other guys, just piled on top of each other, and you're all going through training that is toughening you up and getting you ready for military service. I didn't think that I would have an emotional moment, but seeing that name drew quite a bit of emotion for me, that I had finally I had a family that was there to support me, and that I had a name to live up to and uphold and honor.
Hmm. When you say you had a family, are you talking about your parents at this point, or are you talking about the people you are serving with?
No, no, I am talking about Marge and Tony, and prior to adopting me, they had They had two kids, Missy and Daryl, that were already off in college. And to me, it was important to have that family connection that I could look back on and draw on in those memories. And again, serving my country, but also kind of serving my family in the way of honoring them, saying thank you for allowing me to have your last name and to grow up to be hopefully a good man.
What would Tony? What would you say to to people watching who are thinking adopting a kid, adopting a child might be for them, but they're kind of unsure.
Yeah, I would say go for it. Um, there's going to be some challenges. There's going to be some things that you can't prepare for that maybe that child has gone through, but opening your home and opening your family to them isn't just going to change that child's life, it's going to change yours. And it's going to be incredible. And the impact that you're going to have is not just now for now, it's a long-term impact that is going to carry hopefully across generations.
Hopefully, across generations, that gives me goosebumps. I mean, yeah. Knowing you have your own kids and yeah, imagine Tony Senior's love. So you are going to your kids, and then I mean, this stuff all ripples out. It's beyond our comprehension, really.
It really does. It really does. Something that just crossed my mind very recently is my dad, like I said, was in the military. He served during Vietnam, and he did a couple tours in Vietnam. And this year in school, my oldest son, his best friend is a immigrant from some from Vietnam.
Hmm.
Um, and how cool is that? That you didn't. My dad didn't necessarily choose to go to war. It was the decisions of the president and those way above him. But the impact on that country led us to a point where we accept folks from Vietnam into our country now.
Hmm.
Someone that could be his grandson's best friend is so incredible to me to see that we have this connection.
Wow. Well, wow. Um. So, so you went into the military. What branch?
I was in the Air Force. I was a civil engineer. I served um just just shy of 10 years. I loved every minute of it. I went in the Air Force because that was the branch my dad was in. And one of the things he said to me is, if you're going to go into the military, go in as enlisted. You can always switch over to become an officer later, but if you're going to be a good officer and you're going to learn how to lead, you need to go through the enlisted structure first. And so that's what I did. And I found that I loved the enlisted side of things. I loved working with my hands and doing things, and the brotherhood, the people that you serve with really truly become family. And so I was very blessed to work with some incredible people and got to do some incredible things around the world, and including some humanitarian missions as well as a couple deployments.
What do you love about being a civil engineer? What do you love about that work?
I think the part about it that I love the most is just being able to see a drawing or create a drawing and see it come to life. Whether it's building a building, building a road, water or sewage infrastructure, or any of those things, that you come up with this plan and then you execute the plan and you get to see it come to life right in front of you. And the other part is on one of my deployments, we were doing building in base infrastructure planning for 2035. Um, and the date of this video is not in 2035, but it was always looking towards the future. It was something that was always projecting outward, not just stagnant and preparing for right now, but it was looking forward to preparing for the future and the needs of people around that may come after you.
And you've alluded to this a little before, but you're definitely working as a part of a team to create these things, right?
Yes, absolutely. It is never a one person show, one person job by any means. That there are large groups of people involved that make all of these buildings and infrastructure build up happen. And you know, deploying with 20, 30 man teams and getting to jump around the what we call the AOR, the area of responsibility, within the Middle East, Northern Africa, and some others, is just the bonds you make with those people are stronger than anything else. But it was incredible.
What did you learn about teammanship? The importance of teammanship from being in the military.
Um, well, working together, I think, is just the importance of collaboration. You know, there's no way one person is going to lift a 1,200-pound pump, or no way one person is going to make a road if they can only operate an excavator. You need a team who employs people or has people that all have unique skill sets, and recognizing the importance of each individual skill really was probably one of the best parts about working on a team. So you could rely on that one person to know their specific skill inside and out, and that allowed the entire group to be successful.
So you learned a lot about teammanship, or team personship. I keep saying man, but team men and womenship. But what are the important important skills or important attitudes did you learn from your military service?
Well, you know, I don't know if you want to get further on in the story right now, but I think that ultimately things I learned from my military service is that you may not have all the answers right now. What your opinion is, what you think is right, um, isn't always right. And in looking back and being able to check yourself and maybe look at and say, my thoughts and my opinions can change. I'm no longer the person that I was, um, but that I can be maybe a little bit more compassionate. Um, I was I was very strict as a NCO and demanded quite a bit from my people.
When
And
you say those initials, what do those initials mean?
I'm sorry, a non-commissioned officer (NCO) is um, a leader, kind of a your first level supervisory um, folks who have people under them that they're looking out for, but that they also have to discipline as well. You know, maybe someone's late. Well, how do you discipline that? You can write them up and give them a piece of paperwork, but does that ultimately impact them? Maybe for some people. Other people, it's you're going to have to stay after work today and you're going to run 5 miles. But as a leader, I'm not going to make you run that 5 miles alone. I'm going to run it with you. And and we're going to talk about importance of time management.
So 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 you you were very you say you were very strict.
I was. I was very strict. Kind of, you have guidelines, and when you join the profession of arms, which is what really the military is, you're expected to be and act as a professional. And if we didn't uphold those standards, sometimes it was it was my job to come up with corrective actions. What I didn't realize is that when people would come to me and say, "Hey, you know, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, um, maybe there was something else going on. Maybe that there was something going on at home or in their families, and instead of being strict, I could have been more compassionate and listened to them and understood what some of the things like anxiety can do to an individual, what we'll probably talk about later, what PTSD can do for individuals, and how that can affect them.
So we are to that point. There was something happened.
December
That,
18th, 2018, um, is a day that I won't ever forget. Well, I forgot it, um, but my family will never forget it.
so
Um, oh, go ahead.
can say please say more.
Um, I was injured, and in on that day, um, we have very skilled people in our military, but sometimes things don't go right. Things um, things happen, and unfortunately, my injury was severe and made worse by military doctors. And at one point, I was pronounced dead for 7 minutes. And 7 minutes is a long time without oxygen, without blood going through your body and all the normal body functions. And they placed me into a medical coma for almost a month. And in that time, my wife and at the time a 4-year-old son lived that with me as I was there in the hospital bed, and they didn't know if I was going to make it or not. And the incredible story is obviously I'm here by what can only be described as a miracle. The doctors are in utter awe. As I was in the ICU, I'd just come out of my coma. I remember hearing a voice of a female nurse, and she was outside my room, and she said, "Oh my God, he made it? He's alive?"
You remember hearing a female nurse say that? Wow.
Yeah, yes, and I'm not sure if it was just more shock to me at the time. When they took the trach out and all the things off so I could finally speak again. Once I was awake, the doctor came in, and military doctors have a funny sense of humor, I guess, or at least their own sense of humor. The doctor looked at me and he goes, "I have 3 questions for you, Sergeant Russell. Do you know where you are? Do you know what day it is? And do you know who our president is?" And I answered the question of who I was. I remembered my name. Excuse me, not where are you, but the date. The date was the second question. He asked me, "Do you know what day it is?" And I answered December 18th. And he said, "Okay." He goes, "Do you know the third one?" And I answered the third one of who our president was. And he looked at me and he goes, "Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad." And he turned around and walked away. Just walked out of the room. And I was extremely confused because I was sure of who I was. I was pretty sure I woke up the same day. And there's a picture of the president on the wall, so I'm pretty sure that I got that one right. So what's going on here? And they came back in and they had some folks explain to me that I pulled a Rip Van Winkle and took a long nap. And it was pretty chaotic from there. The 6.5 months or so of physical therapy, occupational therapy to learn to walk again, to learn my writing before the coma and after the coma is different, which is interesting to me. I had to do 4 days of therapy to learn to swallow water. The first day I came out of that coma, they tried to give me a sip of water, and I almost drowned myself on a sip of water because my body forgot how to swallow. I mean, one of our most basic functions that we take for granted every day, water consumption, I couldn't do. And it was very, very humbling for me. I had never scored below a 95 on a physical fitness test. I was a very healthy and active young man. And now at that point in the ICU, I couldn't even get out of bed to use the bathroom. I had to rely on someone else to come in and clean me after I soiled myself. And that's when it really changed my perspective. That it's not how strict you can be and how tough you can be, but really it's about the people around you. While I was learning how to walk, excuse me, you have to learn to sit up again first on your own and be able to stand up on the side from the side of the bed. And they set very small goals, very tangible goals for you. And so on this day, I was maybe my third day into the process, and I was learning how to stand up again. And I was supposed to take 2 steps away from the bed, and they have a walker around you, and they have a belt on you, to make sure that you're safe and help you. And they have 2 nurses on either side. I'm supposed to take 2 steps and then turn around and come back to my bed. And so I went through this process. I get up, get through some struggle and strain. I get up and I stand up, and I'm standing next to my bed. And around the corner comes my wife and my 4-year-old son. And my 4-year-old, who hadn't seen me in over a month, maybe a month and a half or so at that point, he looks at me, and he looks at me with this very questioning look of like, all these wires are hooked up to me. There's all these medical people around me. He just looks at me, looks down the hall, looks back at me, and it was like in slow motion. He says to me, "Dad, I think I'm faster than you." And he takes off running down the hall. And everything, every fiber in my being was like, "Oh, you little, if I can catch you, I'm going to wring your neck." And so instead of 2 steps I was supposed to take that day, it was 12 steps. 12 steps to the door and then into the hall. By that time, he had run down the hall and ran back.
12.
But I did 12 steps instead of the 2 that I was supposed to. And I get back to my bed utterly exhausted. And as I'm laying there, it hits me. The leadership power of other people in our life. That 4-year-old walked in. He didn't see my disability. He didn't see the challenges, the things that were holding me back. He looked at me as dad. That's it. He looked at me for me, and he said, "I'm faster than you. I'm going to challenge you." And instead of 2 steps, walk 12. And back 12. So 24, 25 steps.
Wow.
That's incredible. The incredible power that we have to speak into each other's lives and to encourage one another. That power is incredible.
So you Rip Van Winkle from the coma, and then you have to learn all this physical stuff again, and it takes takes more than half a year. Were you surprised when the emotional challenges enter your life, or the?
Yes. You know, see, you talk about emotion and emotional challenges. I always thought that I was mentally tough. You know, I had a little bit of a different upbringing. Um, you know, I got to have two different families for a little while, but you know, I found my mother when she had passed away. So I dealt with some things that I thought I compartmentalized them, but I thought made me mentally and emotionally tough. In laying in that hospital bed in the ICU, I just started bawling when I realized how fragile I was. And that not every life experience is something that is meant to be a trauma. But when you do experience some of those traumas in life, that you shouldn't focus on them because they can really mess you up. But instead focus on the people around you, those people that can bring you out of it. And I didn't understand. I had a doctor who came in who told me that I had PTSD. And I looked at him and said, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you have post-traumatic stress disorder." Said, "You just found out that you had been dead for 7 minutes. You found out that physically you're no longer the same person that you were before. You're not going to be able to do the things that you did before. You're finding out that you have limitations. And those things are going to cause you a lot of emotion." And I kept saying, "I don't have PTSD. I don't have it. I Trauma's trauma. I can power through this. I'll be fine." Said, maybe I'm a little sad sitting in this hospital room where my wife and son would come and visit me, but for as long as they could. But then I had to do rehab and other things, and there are hours where you just are alone. Then someone pointed out to me the acronym for SAD is stress, anxiety, and depression.
Hmm.
I went, wow, okay. I am pretty anxious. I am pretty stressed, maybe a little bit depressed. And I started working through that. And they said, what is the one thing that you want to be remembered for, that you want people to know about you? And I said, I want to be a good dad. And together we came up with an acronym for dad of dream, action, and dominate. See, turning your sad into your goal of what you want to be is dad, dream, action, dominate. Finding that goal, finding that thing that you want to pursue and persevere, and have people know you for, know your legacy, is important. But I learned dealing through some of that there are a lot of tools out there, that you don't have to deal with these emotional challenges, PTSD. You don't have to deal with these traumas alone. There's help. In 2019, I was still recovering. I'm blind in my right eye. I've had 2 brain surgeries, 2 spine surgeries, 3 leg surgeries. I don't walk quite right, and And some of my other stuff, I'm in chronic pain every day. And as I was going through that in 2019, I was still on active duty, living in base housing, and my wife had gone out with our son. And I thought, the best way that I can be of service to my kids and my family is to unalive myself. If I do that, they'll get $400,000 from the military, and maybe my kids will have a dad that can ride bikes with them or play baseball with them. And I would say for people who are ever in that position, that is a lie straight from hell. That you are valued, you are loved, and even though you may not feel it right now, there are people out there who care about you and love you. And lucky for me, my wife came home early, and I got some of the help that I needed. And I went to mental health. I did some counseling, and it's hard. Counseling's hard. And I didn't click well with the doctor. And I thought, you know what? This counseling stuff maybe isn't for me. Well, they're like, well, we're going to medicate you. We're going to give you medicine so you're not depressed. We're going to give you some extra medicine to help with your anxiety. And we'll give you some more medicine to help with stress. So, that should help make you a better person. I'm like, gosh, I don't really know about all this. So I started following the doctor's orders, and I was taking 3 different medications for mental health. And they made me sick. They made me groggy. They made me a completely different person. And I knew that I was being medically retired from the military. I knew that I didn't like the treatment plan that was going on right now in my life. And Rush, here. I knew that there had to be something better. And it was about that time that I got a phone call from a chief my section chief that I had served with. And he said, "Hey, I know you're coming back to South Dakota. I know that you're struggling a little bit. I wanted to let you know that you were selected today to receive the Rush puppy." And I said, "The what?" And he said, "You were selected to receive a dog that the local hockey team, Rush here, has been raising as a service dog to be a future service dog for a veteran." Thank you, buddy. Yeah, thank you. And this dog literally saved my life. This dog got me off some of the medication, helped me with PTSD, helped me with some of my stress, my anxiety, and depression, helped me not be so sad, but helped me in a lot of different ways through some of my PTSD symptoms. And when we moved out here to South Dakota, it changed my life to get this dog. And I started noticing that when I would get agitated, because that's a symptom of PTSD, sometimes you get very irritable at very little things. My boys would be playing, and they would make too much noise, and I would get frustrated with them. And I would yell at them, and Rush would come between them and me, and he'd just stand there without judgment, but in a way only a dog can do, would look at me, and without saying it, it was like he would say to me, "You're in the wrong here. You're the problem right now. Your kids are being kids. You're overreacting. You need to kind of chill out." And then he would come over to me and lean on me or jump up on me and get some pets. But he would help take away some of that anxiety. But it helped me learn that my behaviors, my reactions weren't appropriate and that I was overreacting. And it helped me to eventually have a relationship with my kids in a way where I wouldn't just come in the room and yell at them just to be quiet anymore, but where I would see them and say, okay, how can I interact with them in a positive way? And the dog helped us bond and work through some of those challenges and really, really helped.
Wow. Wow.
There's so
What,
much. Go ahead, Jason.
what would you say to someone who's newly diagnosed with PTSD about? What would you say to give them hope?
I'd say the first thing is accept it. That is the hardest thing for most people who have PTSD is accepting their that they have a reaction to the trauma that they went through. And PTSD comes in all shapes and forms. It's not just because from those who served in the military or for those in law enforcement or first responders. It can come from a vehicle crash. It can come from a bad domestic relationship. There are so many different things that can cause trauma. And at the end of the day, trauma is what is real to you.
Hmm.
It is what you experienced and what is real to you. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, feels. It is what happened to you and how your body reacts to it. So don't overthink it. Don't try to put, well, I shouldn't have PTSD because my best friend over here went on 9 combat missions or 9 combat deployments and was blown up twice. I didn't have that same experience, so I can't possibly have PTSD. Trauma is what is real to you and what you experienced. Once you accept that there is trauma, then you can start to work through it. The next thing I would say is find out what works for you. Like I said, not therapy doesn't work for everyone. Medications, I'm very glad that we have modern medicine, but it's not for everyone. Maybe a service dog is something that can help you through. Or maybe it's just the friends that you have or the family that you have. But reach out to someone and find what works best for you.
Thank you. If people are interested in knowing more about service dogs, what's the first place they should look?
Well, I would say because there are so many people listening to your podcast around the world, I would say that Google search is really the best thing. Google search for someone in your area who provides service dogs, but look that they are ADI certified. ADI is Assistance Dogs International. It's an international standard of that these dogs are trained to make sure that they are assisting you for your specific condition in a way that is going to best help you. So ADI Assistance Dogs International and is the best certification, and dogs that are trained to that level are going to be able to help the most.
Unfortunately, we're running short on time because there's so much more we could talk about. Um, but one more question I ask all my guys. I talk about doing our imperfect best, and what that means to me is I envision the best I want for my life. Then when mistakes, heartache, obstacles come up, instead of letting them stop me, I use all that learning to inspire me to move forward. What does doing your imperfect best mean to you, Tony Russell?
Doing your imperfect best to me means keep putting one foot in front of the other. No matter no matter what is going on in your life. Um, the scientific community says that a object in motion stays in motion,
Hmm.
and keeping one foot in front of the other, even the smallest of steps, is going to keep you moving forward towards the goal. I know we're running short on time, but something takes me back to when I was young. We had a neighbor who was very old. He had actually fought in World War II, and he was born and raised in Germany, and he was American POW, and came in and ended up getting citizenship and lived in the United States. As our next door neighbor, I go over there and talk to him, and one of his favorite sayings was, "You rest, you rust." And for me, doing your imperfect best is putting one foot in front of the other, even if it's half a foot. Just keep moving forward so you
Hmm.
don't rust in place.
Hmm.
Don't get complacent. Don't stay in your trauma. Slowly, every day, try to take one step forward, and you will reach your best.
Hmm. Very inspiring. Thank you for your kindness, your stories, all that you offer your family, your kids, and all that you offer your community, and it's a pleasure to know you. Thank thank you for being you, Tony Russell.
Thank you for having me, Jason. It's inspiring to know you, and I'm very grateful for that introduction that was made, and the friendship that we're starting here. So thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to our future. To getting to know you and how we can collaborate. Uh,
Absolutely.
and for now, please stay on. I'm going to wrap up, but please stay on. It takes a minute for things to upload. And and thank you all for tuning in and learning from Tony and feeling his stories and yes, life is full of of misfortunes, and it's also full of miracles. Which am I? Which are you going to pay attention to? I guess we get to pay attention to both because they're both part of our lives. But what can we do to give thanks for the miracles and give thanks for it all actually, because the misfortune and the miracles combine to bring us to where we are today. Thanks for being you, and tune in next week for another episode of our Godly Awesome Podcast. Talk to you later.